Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for and with manufacturing leaders. I'm Mike and this is Trevor. We want you to join us on our journey as we help you gain new insights, moments of clarity, and self-awareness.
Hey, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and uncover new perspectives to make your next day better, grab your coffee and let's go. Here we pick it up again with Bill Priamo. If you missed part 1, check out our last episode.
I wasn't afraid of anything, but I was mortally afraid of the people out on that floor. Wow. And it showed in my performance. It showed in my behavior. I felt that I needed to control them. I needed to tell them. I needed to be the guy with the answers. I needed to be able to fix things. As a technician, I was very capable of fixing things. Technologically, there was nothing out there that I was afraid of. 500,000 square foot plant, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of capital equipment, nothing scared me. But the people side of it scared the living hell out of me.
You think that's common with leaders today?
I think it's everyone.
Same fear?
Anyone who is just entering in, especially someone who's come out of a specialty role, engineering, maintenance, tooling, technology sides of things, moving into a leadership role, your confidence comes from your expertise. But I've been telling people, and this is new, this is something I've only adapted to in the last 3 years,
Right.
is what got you to this table won't make you successful at this table.
What got you here won't get you there.
No, you can't move forward continuing to do the same things. I was a very highly sought after technician in every facility that I've worked in, and I've worked in a lot of them, because I was always willing to address the technical problems. I was always successful. Maybe it was just luck. I don't know. I had a big toolbox. But in a leadership role, you can't fix things. You can influence things. And it's taken me a long time to learn that. It's taken me a long time to learn that my behavior has to change. I have to change. I can't change the world around me. I can only change me. And I've experimented with this. I think I was telling you about this. I came into this building miserable on a repeated basis. Not truly miserable, just intentionally being miserable, scowling,
Yes.
walking head down, right? And guess what? You could feel the difference. I could anyway. It takes a lot to practice that. It's taken me 10 years, to your point. I became aware of it 10 years ago. I'm comfortable being aware of it now. Hopefully I only have 10 years left because my wife and kids are spending all my money. But in those next 10 years, I want to practice that. I want to teach other people that because I'm much more content now. I'm much happier now.
Absolutely.
I'm calm. And you lived it, both of you, where I was the most intense guy in a 1 million square foot plant that we worked together in. And that's not necessarily good for me or the people around you. Right?
And being you is the easiest person to be.
Certainly.
And the one mantra that we hear a lot is, the way you show up is the way people feel. The way people feel is the way they engage. And that's everything. That's your results, that's your profits, that's your throughput, that's your quality, your safety.
You can intentionally impact that. If you're in a highly stressful stage, and recently I've gone through some pretty substantial changes in this building, right? It's been unstable. We've had some seriously challenging issues going on, and like I say, being self-aware and understanding that and looking around, watching, okay, I'm walking in the door singing, and we know that the pressure is on. There's a lot of people watching. And, well, if he's happy, it can't be that bad. And that is really the thing you want to the most effective thing you can do is just to calm people down and realize, okay, the guy in charge doesn't seem to be panicking, right? So why am I? They may not even be aware of asking themselves that question. You can see them change, because if they're out there and they're in the trenches, they're making it happen. They're at war, and they know they're struggling. They're not dumb. They know that things are not good, and that you have to accept that. But you can't dig yourself out of a hole. Put the shovel down, right? Just yelling at them to dig faster isn't going to help. That just makes the hole deeper, right?
It's the speech.
Yeah.
Speech. Let's work harder today.
Yeah.
A little bit more from
Try
everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna
harder.
go faster.
Yeah.
And you know what I say? Slow down to go fast. It's like the NASCAR drivers.
Yeah.
They got it right. Slow down to go fast. And you know, it's fun for me now to actually practice this. It took me a long time to learn it.
Yeah, sure.
I was actually violently resistant, because as I think back now and I think of the people that tried to teach me this lesson or these lessons, because there's a whole ton of it to learn, I was violently resistant. I believed that they were just soft, that they were ineffective. And now I realize that they were far more effective than I had thought, and their advice would have made me, I'd have more hair if I had listened to them, right?
So if you think in the future, some of the things you're talking about, do you foresee this rubbing off to your peers? You see it
I'm
starting to
trying.
build some legs,
Yeah,
grow a little
I'm trying.
bit?
I change my approach on a regular basis. I have the central belief, right? If I'm aware of myself, and I'm aware of how my actions and my message impacts the people around me, what I find myself doing is analyzing people's reactions. Right? I sit in meetings and I'll hear someone say something, and I can look around the room now. I've gotten good enough at it. I'm just learning, but to say, well, those three people have no idea what you just said. They're completely unaware. And because of the way you said it, they're not willing to admit that they don't know what you said. Right? I tend to have a fairly casual approach to communications. I'm not one to give you a 30-slide PowerPoint presentation. I'm not one to develop a huge Excel spreadsheet to give you all the data on this topic, but I am one to tell you that the people around you, the critical individuals who need to go and execute based on your description of the goal, have no idea what you're talking about. And I can see that now. And it started with me just, okay, I'm going to say something and see what happens. Right? I can be in the west end of the plant and tell somebody something, then I go down to the east end of the plant to hear it. And I'll hear how it changes. And then I'll think, wow, the direction of change. You know that the story will change. I can tell a story.
Yes,
I
always
start
does.
a rumor one
Always
end of the
does.
plant. That you know that it's going to change, but then look at it and why did it go in that direction? Don't question how it changed or why it changed. Why did it go in that direction? How did I present the original story in order to spin? Because every interaction, the message sent is not always the message received. If I'm aware of how I'm sending the message, when, what time of day, right? I've learned that as well. You want to give a hard message? Do it in the morning, right? If you truly want to congratulate somebody and thank them for a job well done, do it right near the end of the day, because then they go home feeling good. They carry that through to the next day.
Be aware.
Yeah.
Aware of them.
Same with maintenance. I fall back on this all the time because I did it. I once walked up to two maintenance individuals in this facility. It was very early on, and they had struggled all day long, and with very little result. We hadn't gotten very far, and this was just by accident. this because it was not my learned or intended behavior at the time. But I walked up, and as I'm walking up, these guys are sweating. They're filthy. They're covered in grease and oil. It's not a good environment they were in, and I knew that they had been there all day long. And it just happened where I said to them, good job, guys, great day. It's time to go. You're not going to get anywhere now. You've been at this for 12 hours. Go on home. We'll get it tomorrow. Now, at the time, we had the luxury of worrying about it tomorrow.
Yes.
But I didn't intentionally do that. But those two individuals are still working here, and they will still tell you about that. Because when a maintenance guy is really busy, everyone else is uncomfortable because your equipment is down.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
When they're working very hard, everyone else is questioning what they're doing. You'll hear it. Oh, they're just doing swaptronics. Well, sometimes you got to do that, right?
We know that term.
It's
All
part
right?
of it, yeah.
You hear that.
Yeah.
But they're working very hard at this point. Everyone else is stressful. I'm not getting
Absolutely.
throughput. I'm not meeting. I'm going to have to incur additional costs for overtime.
I can feel it.
Right? You can feel all that tenseness.
Very
Just by
tense.
describing it, I can see it in
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You're getting itchy.
You start to sit up in the chair a little
All
bit.
the production
Absolutely.
guys
Yeah.
come out. They're doing one of these. Oh, shit.
Squirming.
But guess what? I've seen it repeatedly where leaders in organizations go out and congratulate everybody because we hit a record number. And I'm sitting there going, oh, okay. And those two guys were questioned. People had that look in their eye yesterday because we were down all day. And today we hit a record number, and you're out here shaking hands and kissing babies. Is that leadership, or is that just reaction to the environment around you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, autonomic reactions.
Yeah.
That's not an awareness thing. You're not aware of the effort that these two individuals are putting in right now. The situation is causing me stress. I have no parts to put on the truck. But if I'm self-aware, I realize those two individuals are doing everything they can to help me. They're not intentionally hindering me from being successful. They're doing everything they can to help me. And this is probably the worst day that they had because they're not only working with their hands in a filthy environment or a dangerous environment, they're working with their mind, which is both physically and emotionally draining by the end of the day. If you walk up as a leader and say, good job, guys. I appreciate it, but we're going around in circles here. You need to bail out. Go on home. We'll get it again. We'll get at it tomorrow. There's another shift coming in. They want parts again tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Right? Now, at the time I did that just out of accident. That may have just been the latent tradesman in me rather than the leader. I know it wasn't an intentional leadership approach. But those two individuals still remember that. That's 15 years ago, and they describe it in the cafeteria with the new people that are working in this building.
And they won't remember maybe what you said, but they can still feel how
Yeah.
you made them feel.
They can, yeah.
And you talk about your self-awareness, Bill, but I think for the listeners, what they would be picking up is really your awareness of others on the environment and the situation and who they are. Like you understand the people. And the one comment that I heard from another leader that knew of you is one of your mantras was the pulse of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't just the pulse of the floor, it was the pulse of each person. And that's what you seem to really connect with.
Yeah. In the past, I didn't recognize that as much. Now, for me, I can tell when someone's struggling. I can tell when someone is frustrated, right? I look for those things. It's a practice thing. You need to practice it, and you need to learn it as a leader because you can, like I say, the message send. If I'm not walking up to you and say, okay, well, I know you two are happy to be here today, so I can get away with murder, right? But if you walk up to an individual on your team and you see, if you're aware of the fact that they're frustrated, that something is bothering them, don't go straight to the work. Don't go straight into just the cursory situation. There's always another day. There's always another problem, right? I did this a couple of weeks ago. I could tell that someone, I just felt that they were off their game. This was not right. And what they were dealing with was important to me. I needed to understand what was going on, and I was seeking to help. I wanted to know their opinion. But I could tell they were off their game. It's not the same guy that I see every day.
Mm-hmm.
I have the luxury of knowing a lot of the people in this organization for many years. I didn't start the conversation about work. I didn't start the conversation about information, expectation, give me information or whatever. It was, what's going on? What's with you?
Love it.
And I learned a ton of stuff about that individual and his family that day.
Yeah.
So
And it took 20 minutes.
for the listeners, what Bill's talking about is be able to be above the noise of the chaos, because it happens. Anybody's worked manufacturing, and that's what we're tuning into, is the manufacturing community.
Yeah, if you don't like it.
No,
get out.
and if you can look past the big breakdowns, the live loading, the potential short ship on a customer, to really see the value in the people that walk through fires for you every day. And that's your self-awareness, Bill.
Yeah.
You've learned that over time?
Yeah, that's developed. You practice
doing
it,
well
and
at it.
you need to be conscious of it,
Absolutely.
right? And I was unconscious of it. It is a skill that I possess. I do agree that some people are better at it than others.
Mm-hmm.
Once made aware of the importance of it, I recognized the skill within me. I just wasn't using it well, right? Now that I practice it, I'm finding that it's making my life better.
And here's the odd thing for the listeners. Bill comes from a maintenance background.
Yeah.
This is a diamond in the rough. You don't normally see this. We all know that, which
yeah,
is awesome.
It took a lot of years.
Yeah, that's okay.
I've been at this for 40 years.
That's
It took me
okay.
25 years to learn this
Yeah,
stuff.
That's
Slow
okay.
learner.
I love
That's
the
okay.
vulnerability, Bill. Like, just hearing you talk about the fact that you weren't scared of the technology, and it was the people. So there's a listener out there right now. They're you 20 years ago. Their boss is not singing, and they're asking when's it gonna be fixed, or they're asking, how do we get more numbers. So when that person's coming in, they got promoted. They're very good technically, and they're a little fearful in their leadership role, but they don't want to express that. What can they do?
Well, you can listen to this podcast.
Yeah, good
shameless
advice.
plug.
Good advice.
And subscribe.
Keep talking.
You're buying coffee. For me, it was looking for the right mentors. For me, was getting feedback from the people that had worked with me. I've sought out that feedback from you.
Yes.
Because a big portion of it, I started to feel uncomfortable. Right? I was aware that I wasn't moving forward. Right? That I was, and not in the sense of promotion. I don't care about titles anymore. I really don't. I want to be impactful. I don't want to be in charge. Right? I know for a fact that if I make a request, if I send a request out into this plant, I will get help freely from those people. So how did I seek those things out? I haven't truly been able to pinpoint it. I journal a lot, so I'm looking back and stuff, and I can't pinpoint any given thing, but I've had opportunity. Like I say, I've heard these messages. I've had exposure through training.
Yes.
There have been leaders that I've been worked for that have been very focused on this stuff, and I was resistant to accepting it, and I regret that, because my quality of life, my ability to achieve work-life balance, right, is 10 times stronger now than it was when I was resisting those things. So seek out that coaching. There are podcasts, there are books. I could probably list you 10 books that I've read in the last 5 years that have helped me gain the respect for these things, right? To see the value of these things.
What's the one you would recommend?
That's awesome.
Give and Take is a good one. Can't remember the author. Sorry. I got a picture of. Can I touch my phone? I don't want to get into this. I have a picture of someone who's been coaching on this very topic recently.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Where the hell is it? There it is. There. Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. That's a good book.
Excellent.
Nice.
A very good book. I've been practicing that. This is just a recent one. I've been practicing that. I've been sharing that with others, and I've seen the impact it has. Rather than telling, just ask. Ask a good question.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah, and I think
Good point.
if you take away what you just said is the mentor. Find somebody that you like working with and talk to them about it. Ask them what they're reading. Ask them how do they remain calm.
That's not
good
even that.
advice.
Go and ask them. So you saw me do that. What do you think?
Excellent.
You have to be open to that. I've had a lot of criticism, and both of you know that the sort of predator that I was is sometimes successful. You can force things,
Yes, you can.
but it was not good for me.
Mm-mm.
My family will tell you that it was not good for me. But it's not just seeking out advice, here's the step-by-step instructions, right? It's seeking out, well, what did you see? I saw the same thing,
That's awesome.
but what did you see? Go and ask them. Okay, I want you to be, I've done this. This is an actual really good one. This was one that I've just recently learned from an individual who no longer works with us. He said, bring somebody with you. Have the interaction with that individual that you're going to have the interaction, whatever the topic may be, right? Sit back after that individual leaves the room. Sit back. Don't say anything to the person that you've invited to just sit there quietly and observe. And then jot down the 3 or 4 things that you observed in this individual. Okay, I'm seeking for understanding. I want to make you more confident. I want you to be more aware, clearly communicate, clear expectations. Here's the expectations, Trevor. This is what I'm talking about, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Then seek that input back from that individual. Now we've got agreement. It's clarity. So you bail out. Trevor takes off to go and do something. And I turn to Mike and say, okay, I saw this in his eyes. This is why I repeated myself 2 or 3 times, because I didn't feel confident that he was getting this.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see? And be open to that person, because that person who's with you is going to say, well, he was not uncertain. You were unclear. Like, I have some pretty thick skin, so I'm not too, I've been called everything in
I'm
the
glad you
book,
said
right?
skin.
Yeah, really. But you got to be open to that, and you have to absorb that, because it's not my impression of who I am, what I'm doing, or what I'm saying that matters. It's completely meaningless. In your mind, you have more conversation with yourself in your mind than you will with anyone you ever meet in your life.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do.
And that conversation, you can control that conversation. It's got to be positive, all those things. Yeah, okay. But it's never true. Because in your mind, you have those conversations. You're always right. The man who is always right will never know when he's wrong. If I have you listen to me speak, obviously you two cut in when I start rambling, which is good, right? That's important, right? And that's why I say, if you're self-aware, or if you're moving towards self-aware, because I'm only starting on this, I'm learning this as I go. And I've had some good coaches, I've had some good resources, I've looked at some things, but it's the practicing that will help. And if you're actually seeking other people's perceptions of your interactions with other people, not their perceptions of their interactions with you, because they've already had that conversation in their head, right? You want them to just be sitting there, I got no skin in the game. I got nothing here, I don't care. You want to tell Trevor he's absolutely spineless, you go right ahead and tell him. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But in the end, I get the opportunity to say to you, when you told Trevor he was spineless, you pretty much deflated any hope of getting anything done, and he shut off.
Exactly.
He stopped listening to you and started listening to his conversation in his head, which is, this guy's an idiot, right? And you can't avoid that. You can practice it, but you can't avoid that individual. And that feedback from those with you we're good.
There's one word that sums that up. Vulnerability.
Yeah, you gotta
To be very open and vulnerable, to allow people to give feedback.
Yeah, don't take it personal.
That's right. Exactly. Well put. What a great podcast. Ton of information.
No, there you go.
Lots to be said about this podcast and learnings.
Bill, I just want to thank you for taking the time today, and Mike, you touched on it as well, is that one thing of your legacy, Bill, is authenticity. You use the word today, and you're authentic, and at the same time, you evolve. So you're open to feedback, you stay true to who you are, but you make these subtle shifts saying, I can make my life better and others by being self-aware, the awareness of others. And I guess my last question for you would be, if you look back at all the things that you've done and when you step back at different departments that you've run, what's the one thing that you were doing well when you look back now, but you didn't realize how important it was?
The big thing is I can see clearly the confidence in people that have worked with me, because nobody's ever worked for me, and that's part of that authentic thing. I still see myself as just a maintenance guy out on the floor trying to get stuff done. The people that have worked with me, you can see those individuals are confident in thinking for themselves. They're looking around. They may not be self-aware yet, but the first step is that I'm going to observe the environment and I'm going to think for myself. I'll make my own decisions and I'll be confident in doing that. My part in that is that support function. They knew I had their back, right? And that's part of that authenticity. They knew that regardless of my mood or my behavior, underlying it, yeah, right, wrong, or indifferent, my expectation was you need to think for yourself. You can't just do what I tell you. And I hope I instill that in a lot more people.
And they trust you.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's trust. Excellent. What a great experience, Bill.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks very much.
We look forward to another one.
Oh, yeah.
In the future.
Do podcast 2.0.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We had so much fun. Please remember to subscribe. It's free. Share it with colleagues. Look for our next episode in a couple weeks.
If you want to drive results, the first step is realizing how you show up.
That's the essence of mindfulness in manufacturing.